Hey everybody, it's Anna J. Wallner with Indie Author Chat, and today I have the pleasure of talking with AC Merkel. AC, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm AC Merkel, author of the Lady Dreamscape series, which right now is Her Name is Murder in London Calling. I just recently released a standalone paranormal romance where witches love witches, uh, witch versus witch. And there's an anthology that just came out today that has a story of mine in it that's called The Theater of Nakhmandu. So that's going to be out and around, and you'll probably see it in the future. Um, I'm a
I think I've
mechanic.
I think I've
I'm a
actually seen a post on that today, actually.
you may have. Yeah, if there's 10 of us, so you're probably going to see like tweets of that if you're on Twitter, because it's going to be hard to miss with all of us posting it. But I'm a mechanic by day, and I write about magical people at night or at lunch or wherever I can fit it in.
That is absolutely the life of a writer. It's whenever we have the time. So, or whenever the inspiration strikes, we can't be picky, right?
Right. And sometimes you have to write through when there's not exactly inspiration.
Yes, no, that's the tough part and something that I've been dealing with recently, actually. So I
You can
completely
always fix it later.
understand. I love that. Yes, I saw a quote that said, "If you don't write anything, you have nothing to fix."
Pretty
So
much.
I try and keep that in the back of my mind whenever I get stuck. So, but you have two books in the series that are out now,
Yes, and a
and
10-page short, which is also on Amazon. I don't recommend paying 99 cents for it, just Kindle Unlimited it. And
so
if you really want to read the little 10-page that goes between the two books, you can come by my website, and I'll be happy to find a way to get it to you. So,
awesome. Well, the series sounds so intriguing, and the second book actually, you write through time. What is that like? That's got to be kind of a. Do you plot that out to?
in the case of the first book, I had an idea, and it just kind of all flowed out. Like it
Right.
kind of, it hit, and it was ready to go. It was ready to be down, and I wrote it, and then I fact checked afterwards, added in a couple of stories afterwards, like small segments. There's an Orient Express segment, and I came up with that after the initial drafting. So that's in there and got added back in. In terms of London Calling, the second book, I had to really think about where I was starting and where I was ending and where we were going to go, and what things were like in London in 1536, and what things were like in New York in 89, and some other things that I won't spoil. But there was a lot of research went into both books, but the way I approached it was different between the first one and the second one, because I knew what was happening in the second one, and the first one was kind of, I have this idea, let's go.
No, I completely understand. So the second one you write through time, so it hops around. So I bet you had to do a lot of historical research.
A lot of historical research, and just making sure that the characters from the other time period were right, because they were real people.
Oh,
It was, it's not so I've blended real history with this fake reality that's going on in today's world. So it's kind of it's
how
different and weird.
how were you able to blend those points of view from a modern to a historical one? I mean, that
There's
had to be that had
I
to
made a bit
be
of a concession on how the historical characters spoke and what their thought processes were, and I did, because I didn't want the reader to be mired down with, you know, odd patterns of speaking, or but also still had to keep in mind the political and religious kind of thoughts and
atmosphere.
processes of the day. So they're accurate in the sense that What is going on at the time, where we go back to in history is what was going on. Whether or not it's exactly right, well, because it's a fiction. So, but yeah, I hope that was I hope that was coherent, because it might not have been.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yes, it would be very difficult for me to write in, say, Old English prose, because I know that the way that people spoke back then is very different from the way that people speak today, and to try and incorporate that into a novel that switches then into modern English,
Mm-hmm.
it would be a little difficult to kind of keep that dialectical.
We also, we see this stuff about historians will kind of look back at the period that I'm talking about, the Tudor period, and kind of say that they really didn't speak that much more differently than we do. They wrote differently than we do, way differently. And a lot of things didn't have an exact spelling either. They spelled things how they sounded for a lot of them, because there wasn't, only the most royal were educated. But it's kind of it's not forsooth and then and all that stuff in the Tudor time. See, my brain's starting to frazzle. Twitter time. In the Tudor times, it wasn't quite medieval speaking. It was something between that and what we have now.
Gotcha. So Murder is actually the character's name, Murder Laveau,
Yes.
who goes by the name of Lady Dreamscape.
On stage. Yes.
On stage. Can you give us a little insight into her character, because she sounds intriguing?
Let's see. We pick up the first time we hop back and tell you what's going on with Murder. It's 1550 in Ottingen, France. So if that gives you an idea, she's under this curse of the ageless, which requires someone to be in the curse with her. There's an ageless and a protector, and her protector is Levi. And they have spent this 483 years moving through life together in a brother-sister type relationship, through continents and centuries and other places in the world, and they have a very close relationship.
I was wondering where the immortality bit played in there, and so you just explained that for me. It's actually a curse.
It's actually a curse, and the thing that's makes it a little bit different from most curses is, well, she's got a pretty awesome life, right? So it's like, you're this immortal being, you have this amazing life. Everyone you meet says what's affecting you is a curse, and you're kind of like, what doesn't feel like a curse? So I have to make sure I stay alive so that I don't wind up going to hell for being under a curse or whatever, right? So it's kind of like one of those kind of things. But then, an attempt's made on her life at her rock concert, and things start to go downhill from there. Now she can die. That's the kind of important thing, is like she can be murdered, but like if she gets cut, it'll heal. Right.
Okay.
So if she's instantaneously made dead, then she will stay that way, is what she's been told. But no one knows at this point, because it's been 500 years.
And she and Levi are the protectors?
She is ageless, and he is her protector.
Okay.
As long as she's alive, he cannot be killed.
Okay, so they're tied. Their mortality is tied together, intertwined in a way.
Yes.
That's so very fascinating. So you also have a standalone book, Witch versus Witch, which just released at the beginning of this year.
Yes, it did. New
Brand
Year's Day.
New. And it's a novella which highlights the romance between Farah and Serena, one of light magic and one of dark. Is this the beginning of a new series?
It is not. the
Oh,
beginning of a new series.
Okay.
I've purposefully on that, given everything that I plan to give about Farah and Cyrena, and hope that, it's enough. But also, like, it gives you a complete where they end up much later.
So it fully closes out.
It fully closes out. There's some side characters I'm interested in, but maybe not.
So I know some people like myself. I tend to gravitate towards this series, and you are an author that does both.
Yes.
So do you ever think about going back and revisiting some characters? Like you fall in love with them and you say, I think I want to do a little extra.
There's always a chance.
Maybe a compendium.
And the Lady Dreamscape series isn't complete. I haven't closed that up yet. There's still a couple of plot points hanging from the second book that are, when they're solved, then maybe there'll be something new, maybe not. Might keep it going, I don't know yet. A lot of that depends on readership, of course. If it's hugely popular, of course I'll write more of them. But as it stands, I'm not gonna leave it hanging, if that makes sense.
It does.
As far as with Which versus Which, I wanted something that people could dive into, read in an afternoon, and decide if they liked my writing or not, and possibly come back to the Lady Dreamscape series after they've read that. But also because I was, trying to keep some representation going in Lady Dreamscapes, and I didn't have a women who love women couple, and I thought it'd be fun to give that a spin out there in a separate kind of book. I had planned a certain character to be a lesbian, and when I got them in the room with another character, it turned out she wasn't. So
sometimes our characters surprise us that way, in that
yes,
we expect them to take a certain path, and then they kind of surprise us and take a completely different course. So you're kind of there's a bit of plotting that absolutely had to go into writing the second book in the Lady Dreamscape series, because you deal with bouncing back and forth in time. But by nature, do you consider yourself a pantser?
Oh, I still think I'm somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Even with Her Name is Murder, the first book in Lady Dreamscapes, where I had this idea and I had to go, I still kind of knew where it ended. So I kind of, and I knew which places, and within a week of starting writing, or within a day or two of starting writing, I knew which places I wanted to hit. So I kind of researched a little on the side while I was writing that, but I'm somewhere. I guess they call that a plantser.
A plantser.
Yeah, a planner, a plotter, and a pantser kind of together in a thing. But like every one of these books, okay, maybe not London Calling, but Her Name is Murder and Which versus Which both have characters in them that I had never even thought about making until I was writing. People who showed up and influenced the story and kind of made it what it was.
And sometimes the secondary characters really become more important than you thought they would be.
Oh yeah.
To the story.
Oh yeah. And sometimes characters that you thought were more important to the story wind up being less so. So.
Absolutely. So have we seen, my last question was, have we seen The Last of Murder? And you've already answered that one. No.
Oh yeah, we haven't. There's right now I'm in this kind of brainstormy planning stage. Like I know what problems need to be solved for book 3, but I don't know what form the path of that takes at this point. And There's big things on the way for her for sure in the future, whether and things that may or may not come to fruition that she's hoping for. So we have to see what happens to her, and I definitely want to make sure we get there. So hang on, heart, don't quit on me.
Do you think that you'll continue writing the murder series even after book 3, or do you think that you'll switch to?
It's undecided.
Yeah, I know.
It's still undecided.
Until you get to the end of that 3rd book, you just don't know.
I would love nothing more than to have something going on with that world and characters from here on out. But there's also going to be standalones like Witch versus Witch that just pop into my head and like won't let go, and I have to do them. So
I think everybody in the writing community, or everybody who's an author or writer at heart, can agree and sympathize with that. There's just always sometimes that thing that you just have to get down.
Yes. Absolutely. So that was all the questions, huh?
That was all that I had prepared.
All right.
But did you want to talk about anything else?
Well, go ahead.
I have another one that I usually like to ask, especially someone that has been writing for a while. Do you have any advice for us other indie authors out there?
Don't let all the advice out there scare you away from writing something.
I love it.
Because when I started this journey, not so much before I started writing the book, but as I was writing Her Name is Murder and realized I had something that I wanted to share with the world, I was like looking at, oh, well, publish this, publish that, read this, write that. Don't use adverbs. Do use adverbs. Don't do this particular thing when you write. Please make your own decisions. Read through the advice. There's useful things in there, but don't let any of it like paralyze you.
Take what you can that applies to you and use it as you will.
And the best thing, I think, for learning how a book should be written is to be a reader. Read, see how it's being done, see what works, see what doesn't, and apply that to yourself and just think, do I know how a book, how a book looks because you've read a bunch of them. So that's where that's your best guide is books.
Absolutely. And the writing community itself, there are a lot of resources there that people are willing to share their insights and information, and then and you can find extremely helpful. But I love the positive attitude of don't let anything scare you away from trying to write that thing, because from experience, I had an idea that wouldn't let me go, and I kept shoving it to the side and saying, I'm not good enough. I can't write. I can't do. But it still wouldn't let me go until I put the thing down on paper or laptop. But so if the story is inside of you, you've got to let it out.
Okay. But it's true. Right there between writing the book and publishing the book, there was so much advice on what to do between writing the book and publishing the book. You need this number of beta readers. You need to spend this much on an editor. You need to do this. You need to do that. And
I'm with you.
It almost crippled me. I almost didn't do it. And the book came out with some errors that I had to go back in and repair. But, because I didn't know properly how to, what's the word? How do I phrase it? She said the quote attribution that I was doing was not exactly right. And I got called out for it in a review, and I looked the thing over and realized, oh yeah, I did do all these wrong. So I fixed those, and I had a couple of people that read it and looked it over for me and said it read well. I couldn't spend $500 on an editor at that point in time.
No.
So it was just like I was kind of out there on my own, and you learn about things as you go. And now I have like a team of proofreaders to help me make sure that like things aren't, I have good friends that help me out. And while it's not exactly having a true editor, it's not bad.
Well, that's all good advice, and like I said, like you said, that having a group of people, other authors and writers that you can turn to help you with
Mhm.
that editing is essential. We're all kind of in this crazy writing adventure together.
Yes, yes, we are.
So,
Um, okay. We
well,
got
thanks.
yeah. I just want to shout out a couple of things, and then
Absolutely.
like I said, the Theater of Nakhmandu is out now. Um,
And who else can you say who else
yeah, I can
is
give a couple of names, but like I'm gonna forget somebody, I'm sure. But the lead of the project is Davine Lagrange. She's a Davine LG on Twitter, and then there's Sage Wolfsong and James. Yeah, I don't know. It's all on the cover. I can make sure you have a link so we can see it
yes.
below. And there's 10 of us, so it's kind of hard to remember everybody at once, even though I know them and I know who they are.
Yes, everybody, AC's links will be in the description of the video below, so definitely check those out. What was it like to work with 10 other authors on an anthology?
We all kind of wrote independently. We had the rules of the universe laid out beforehand, and like here's what your story needs to do and accomplish, and or come close to accomplishing, or and so we all wrote our own thing, and there's some cool stuff in there, uh, fun stuff,
Are they
exciting kind of
mostly,
stuff. It's
are
sci-fi and
they,
fantasy.
okay, I was going to say, is there
It's
a theme
sci-fi and
to the
fantasy.
genre?
There's well, the theme is masks,
Okay.
and there's basically masks in the world, and you put it on and it takes you somewhere. So it's kind of like if virtual reality happened magically through masks. So that's kind of cool.
Very interesting premise. So definitely, guys, check that out, as well as all of AC's works, which feature Murder Laveau.
There you go.
The Lady Dreamscape series, as well as the standalone and the newest release, which he has out, Witch versus Witch. So AC, thank you so much for being on with me today. I really, really appreciate your time, and everybody stay warm, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you soon.